Today, it is my privilege to welcome to the channel the frontman of legendary 90s indie band, the BLUETONES. Mark Morris, how are you doing?
Hello there, I'm very well, thank you. I'm a little scruffy today, but that's usual on a day off.
It's a bit surreal me actually talking to you here because I was a kid in the Britpop days. I was, a young teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching you guys on Top of the Pops all the time and on later with Jules Holland. I've even dug out of my collection just a few.
Oh my God, are the CDs? Yeah. Is that one still inside its wrapping?
No, they're in protective cases because I collect all the old
Oh, nice work.
It is so cool kind of getting the chance to actually talk to the guy I used to watch singing on TV. one thing that really actually surprised me growing up in obviously the pre-internet days where you just see these mysterious figures on telly, was when I discovered you guys weren't from Manchester. You guys are this, kind of southern-based band who sounds so northern. And maybe that's me just being too specific about the region these sounds come from, but very few people were making that sound in London at that time.
No, I don't know. Honestly, I wish I had an answer for you. I kind of intentionally sing with my London accent. I do say laugh and bath in my songs. And we have had people say that to us a number of times. I thought you were northern. I don't know. It was the bands that we liked were from all over. Squeeze, the Smiths. Obviously, we liked the Stone Roses at that time. They caught us at that teenage, in those very vulnerable teenage years.
I might just be being an unwitting regionist.
Yeah, it's total projection.
What does that mean?
I am northern, therefore they are too.
I was only 13, so
that's all right. No, honestly, I wish I had an answer. I know what you mean, though. I don't know what that. It wasn't intentional.
Well, Expecting to Fly was one of the biggest indie records of the 90s. You literally knocked Morning Glory off the #1 spot in 1996, and that album has also since gone platinum. That's quite the achievement. What do you remember about the making of that album?
We were down at Ridge Farm Studios in Surrey, and we spent the whole summer there. So we recorded that for the whole summer. Plus, there was an indoor swimming pool. That's going to take the edge off a long days.
Very nice.
Singing. Oh, poor Mark.
Oh, it's a hard life.
It's not easy. It's lonely. It's lonely at the top.
That's also a place many massive artists have recorded. Oasis did Be Here Now there as well.
That's right. Scatman John did his first album there.
That was, what was that? That was Ski Badop Badop.
Ski Badop. And I'm the Scatman, yes.
Yeah. So you and Oasis used the same studio. Did you guys ever cross paths at all?
Yeah, a couple of times. We played some shows with them in Europe. In 2000, we played at Reading and Leeds when they were headlining. But we were jammed in between Limp Bizkit and Foo Fighters. So that was an uncomfortable place to be. Quite a testosterone-fueled backstage. Yes, I've met Liam more than I've met Noel, though. First time really would have been late 97 when we just finished recording the second album. And we were back in London and we were at our management offices, which was in Belsize Park. And Liam lived round there. And I think we went round the corner to the pub and Liam was in there. And outside the pub was a sort of a gaggle of kind of about half a dozen paparazzi photographers. And even inside the pub, they kind of followed him inside the pub and were just waiting for him to do something with their cameras on the table. It was that strange. And we just said to him, he sort of said hello. And we said, we're going back to our office now. We're going to have a little playback of the album. Do you want to come and just get out of here? And he did. He joined us for the night. We just took him back to our office. And I have to say, he was like a really funny company. He was a good, engaging conversationalist. I remember him being funny and generous in terms of putting his hand in his pocket and buying everyone drinks, as well as just a generous sort of conversationalist. And I can't really say that I know Noel that well at all. I think the last time I saw him was at a mutual friend's birthday party. And he was kind of like, what the fuck are you doing here? And it's like, well, he's my friend. What the fuck are you doing here? You don't even know him. You're only here because you're both rich.
Did you say that to him?
Yes. And it's true. It's true, those rich people, they just go to each other's parties even if they don't know each other. I don't know what it is. It's a weird, unspoken bond that they have because they've all got the same, similar problems, I guess, talking about their accountants and their Maseratis. People with money gravitate to people with money.
So, Mark, could you tell us a little bit about the origins of the band? How did the Bluetones get together? How did you guys form originally?
My brother and I were in a band called the Bottle Garden. When I left home, about just before I was 18, I moved into a shared house, and that's how I met Adam. And Adam was also in another local Hounslow band. And when we moved in together, we asked him to join our band. We said, why don't you just leave that crappy band and come with us? Look how wide our trousers are. How can you say no? We disbanded the Bottle Garden, and Adam, Scott, and myself stayed together. We were introduced to Ed's at a club night in Covent Garden by mutual friends who sort of said, oh, we know you're looking for a drummer. Here's this guy. He likes the small faces too. We got Ed's round to our house one Saturday night. We played him the one song that we demoed, and he sort of just said straight away, yeah, I'm in. And from there, we just started to get noticed. People were coming to our little gigs, and even though we're only talking about 2 or 3 dozen people showing up, they were small places, and it gave the impression that there was a buzz happening, So we were living off about £36 a week, quite happy for it, time rich, money poor. We used our time in the garage, writing the songs that became our first record, really.
Well, I have some questions about this house and this garage. I have interviewed Matt from Dodgy. He was talking about that band as well. You guys were kind of sharing the house. He also talked about that rehearsal space with mattresses, because Dodgy used it as well, didn't they?
They're a little bit older, and their career was a little bit more of an advanced stage. So they were kind of older brothers in a way. I wouldn't go as far as to say mentors, wouldn't give them that much credit. But it was nice to see them take their baby steps, and it helped inform us sort of 2 years down the line when those similar situations were happening to us. Because like I say, I lived in a shared house with Adam and 2 other people, and then a room became available in Dodgy's house. I knew very well where they lived, and I knew very well which house it was, in fact, before I'd even been there.
Is that because, as Matt said, him and Nigel used to heckle you guys out the window?
Yeah.
What do you remember? I've got to ask about that.
I do remember this. I remember Scott and I used to walk across this kind of big green in front of where they lived at the time, and we'd have to walk across it to get to our grandparents' house. On a Sunday, Scott and I would go around there for dinner, you see. Very good boys. We were all done up to the nines in our flares and our big, parka coats and whatnot. So we looked like straight out of Quadrophenia. And they looked like a bunch of hippies with their mustaches and their long hair and their paisley shirts and their faint smell of patchouli. They were hippies. There's no 2 ways about it. We'd walk across the green and they'd be going, we are the mods, we are the mods. I can't remember, we'd sing back to them. It was some hippie song. I can't remember, but it was all good-natured, but we didn't know them at that point. And then when we met them, Dodgy turned out to be supporting the Grooveyard and kind of just blew them away, really. And I loved the Grooveyard. We watched Dodgy's set, and immediately they finished, went to the front of the stage and was like, you guys are amazing. When are you playing again? That conversation. And then they turned out that they're from Hounslow. And that's when we was like, oh, we know you guys. You're the guys that heckle us across the green. What a small world. And so from there, a friendship was formed.
Another thing that Matt mentioned was that eventually the Bluetones moved in to the Dodgy house, and Dodgy moved out, and you guys pretty much just took over their the place where they were living with the rehearsal space.
Yeah, well, we cleaned it up a bit in the absence of fleeing hippies. It takes a lot of, you've got to do a lot of cleaning up. There's a lot of wiping down and hoovering. I moved in, and they got a record deal, and then so Matthew moved out, and he moved into his own place, and then eventually Nigel moved out, and I inherited his bedroom, which was the biggest. And then Adam moved in, and Scott moved in, and then eventually Ed's moved in as well. So it did become like this monkeys style house. No, it was almost like a youth club in the end.
A question I often ask many of the big British indie acts who were kind of mainstream in the 90s was, you guys were right there in the kind of the eye of the storm when it was all happening. Do you have any memories or stories from that time that you've never shared before that you might be willing to share with us today?
There are a couple of incidents that jump to mind that I'm not particularly proud of, though, and you know, and they don't shed us in a particularly smart light. I mean, it was a bizarre time for us. We got elevated from signing on in Hounslow to being invited to the Brits and all that sort of thing within the space of about 18 months. And this seems to sort of be my relationship with fame, and I'm quite happy with it. These sort of things happen to me regularly. I remember this time when we were in Antwerp, and we were waiting for a ferry. So our coach was parked up in the queue, waiting to get on the ferry. I think we had about a 10-hour wait. So we decided to go round Antwerp and find the best pina colada in town. So the plan was to go. There was about 6 of us, a couple of the band and some crew. And we just go to a bar, have a pina colada, finish it, and then move on to the next bar. And eventually we found ourselves at the Hard Rock Cafe. And it was my round. And I went to the bar to order our 6 pina coladas. And all of a sudden, the Slight Return video came on. And of course, it wasn't just on one screen. It was on like about a dozen screens around the room. And I said, there's my mush on the telly, as large as life. And so I said to the person behind the bar, hey, look, it's me. Do I get mine for it free? Trying it. You can take the boy out of Hounslow. And they wouldn't believe that it was me. They just said, no, sir, it looks nothing like you. That's my Belgian accent, by the way. And it looks nothing like you. And for me, that sums up my relationship with celebrity and fame. How am I supposed to believe it if no one else does?
Yeah. Who actually wrote Slight Return?
Scott wrote the music for that one, and I wrote the sort of words and melody for that one. That's a Morris collaboration, but they're all of ours, if you know what I mean. We share, and always have done. We share everything 4 ways. I remember
what the lyrics were about.
Isolation, about loneliness, and about don't isolate yourself. I think it's the person who's withdrawing, and someone is trying to bring them out of themselves and say, you don't go hoping for a miracle and all that sort of stuff,
Without asking specifics, was it written about a real person in a real scenario?
Well, yeah, it would have been written about myself, being still sort of, like I say, like early 20s. I was still kind of thinking about a lot of things that had happened at home that had led to my leaving home. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think a lot of that was informed by that. Not necessarily sort of romantic relationships. And people interpret them as being about a girl and this and that, and they're not. So 80% of the time, they're about my relationship either with my mum or my relationship with my stepdad, or rather than my girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? But people have interpreted them that way. Cuts and Rug, for example, people think that's always about a girl, and it's like, no, it's not. It certainly is not. But it can be if you want it to be.
Well, you've mentioned Cuts and Rug there. I have to ask, I have wondered since I was a teenager, what does the line Blitzkrieg and the Doodlebug, salt upon a bubbling slug mean?
They're just unpleasant images.
Yeah.
Unpleasant images. The images of like, the destruction of World War II. And then I remember we were visiting my mum one winter. It was Scott and it was us. It was all of us in the band, and a couple of our girlfriends came down, and we found a slug one day, and we put it on a shovel and then put some salt on it. And I'd never seen it happen before. It was disgusting, and I've never done it since. And so this all the time you remind me, all the things this person reminds you of are unpleasant, like destructive and disgusting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like a lot of the BLUETONES lyrics are clearly quite thought through and kind of poetic like that. You do get these montages of images and things.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
One tries.
One tries. What one can. Yes. So Slight Return, that's really you talking to yourself.
Yeah, I guess so. Isn't it? It's like, this is therapy.
Yeah. Well, you're being your own therapist somehow. It's really interesting. Now, I have to ask about this. I heard a rumor. Now, this is mental. This is potentially not true. I heard a rumor that you pissed in Neil Kinnock's bathtub. Is that?
No, true? It wasn't me.
It wasn't
me. No, it was Adam.
Oh, right. So it is true, but it just wasn't you.
Yes, it is true. But it was also long before we found fame. In the early 1990s, Rachel Kinnock, Neil's lovely daughter, whenever she had a party, it was a good party. I didn't know Adam at that point. He knew it was in a different circle, and he got invited to her. And I think, yeah, he's not proud of it. I'm not proud of it either. But at some point, he was at one of her parties, and he was so desperate that he went for a wee in her bath. See, my claim to fame is a lot cooler than that. It was the first place that I'd ever smoked a marijuana cigarette. Was in Rachel Kinnock's back garden. Neil Kinnock's back garden. She was just a tenant. It was his garden.
Blimey, you had your first joint in Neil Kinnock's back garden.
Yes. Yeah. On a Saturday night in 88, 89. I was doing the A-levels.
Very few other people in the world who can make that claim to fame.
I hope, well, maybe Neil. You'd like to think Neil and Glennis would go out there for a doobie.
One thing I've mentioned already was I got to see you guys on Jules Holland. Jules Holland is a little bit of a hero of mine for kind of hosting the music show and giving exposure to all these bands. What was it like working on the set of Later and meeting Jules Holland?
It's all right. I didn't really meet Jules Holland. I tell you what, my memories of that, my enduring memory of that is, and it's a bittersweet one, is that before the red light came on, I had my photograph taken with Bo Diddley and Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. And I've never ever seen that photograph. Never seen it. It was a BBC photographer gathered us up for this shoot, and I've never seen it. Never seen that picture. And of course, who wouldn't want to have that in their downstairs loo? I do think people kind of eulogize a little bit too much about Jules Holland. We had a long career. We've had a long career, and we've only been on there once. So I don't know who the hell we've pissed off at that place, but it's somebody. And he doesn't pick the artists. The idea that he doesn't pick the artists. He just fronts it. He fronts it. He reads a couple of sentences about who's going to be on before they go on, and he bluffs it. He's good at that. You're supposed to think of him as some great curator, a man of incredible musical knowledge, but he's just a boogie woogie piano guy with an intriguing voice. Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a shame that it's one of the few music shows on TV these days. I like it in the regard of it brings a spotlight to new artists when there used to be loads of platforms. Of course, I'm a little bit bitter about the fact that we've only been on there once in how many years now? Yeah, 28 years. So,
well, are you feeling hopeful about the state of the British indie scene right now? In the past 12 months, we've had an incredible run of #1 albums from really decent artists who, they write and perform their own stuff. We've had Liam and Squire, we've had Elbow, we've had Last Dinner Party, we've had even the new Rolling Stones, I thought was pretty good. How are you feeling that the UK music industry is doing kind of in recovery from the advent of streaming and all the talent shows that kind of dealt it a bit of a mortal wound?
The scene, for want of a better word, has contracted from where it was a generation ago. But yeah, there seems to be quite a lot of up and coming new acts. I'm always hearing things and going, "Who's that?" And then someone's telling me, and I'm going, "Who?" So there's lots of new bands emerging. We have had a generation of young people who have sort of different musical ambitions. The ambition is not to be a creator; it's to be a performer. It's to be a star rather than someone who makes things. And I do hope that this generation is moving towards something where their goals have a little more substance to them. The alternative music scene's always been a good place for that. So yeah, it does. I do feel hopeful that there is still a healthy space for these kids to express themselves and to entertain the rest of us in the process. But yeah, a lot of damage has certainly been done over here and in America by this culture of chasing fame,
X Factor and all that stuff.
X Factor and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, the sort of giving the impression that there's a fast track to all of that, and there is. I mean, look at Harry Styles, for God's sakes. But now they're doing that thing with Harry Styles where they're trying to buy him some credibility, aren't they? So let's see how that works.
To me, that's a bit like Robbie Williams trying to convince everyone right after Take That he was an indie boy.
I know all that stuff. He nearly pulled it off as well, didn't he? He nearly pulled it off.
One album that was basically written by Guy Chambers, who is a musical genius, where I got that album and went, that's really good. Has Robbie Williams written this? No.
With when Carl Wallinger passed away recently, it all came to light about the stuff about I just thought it was a shitty way that Robbie had treated the guy that had written him to that point his second biggest song with She's the One, and gave no credit to Carl Wallinger for that, and even actually on stage more than one occasion claimed to have written it. He's deluded, isn't he, poor old Bob?
Yeah. I see that as a not an imperfect parallel between Harry Styles trying to he's massive and he's got this massive PR machine, but is he ever going to be taken as seriously as, someone like Jake Bugg or someone who's done it themselves, coming up from the ground? I don't think so.
But we are moving to a model where that's been more easily acceptable. Let's hope we get back on track, I think. Credit where credit's due, not to these, I don't know, live and let live and all that, but it is just giving our kids a false sense of what achievement and creativity is. Yep, I don't know. Sound like a right old fart now.
I saw the other day that you guys had a gig with one of my favourite up-and-coming bands, Marseille, supporting you. How did that go?
Oh, yeah. That was great. They were lovely lads. Lovely bunch of guys.
Yeah, I've got a lot of faith in them. I meet a lot of new bands. I go to a heck of a lot of gigs. And those were the ones who I met where I went, you guys have got the work ethic, the focus, and the determination. I think it's definitely possible. 10 years' time, they could be a household name.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
James Hargreaves, star maker.
I couldn't take the credit if they were. They're just a good band. It's been so great to have you on the channel. Where can people find you guys on the socials? And I understand there's a new YouTube channel.
Well, all the usual places on Facebook and Twitter. The webpage is BLUETONESBand.com. And this year, we're really busy this year. We've got a number of festivals coming up over the summer. I play at Camper Calling and Soulfest and Pub in the Park and Britfest up in Cheshire, I bet you, this year. And then we're touring ourselves in October. We're currently recording new material. We'll have an EP to release in September time, and then another EP probably next January or February, and then something else in May, I expect, with a little album thing to follow. So things are moving along. And it was the first time we recorded together since 2009. So it's 15 years since we've been in the studio together in this way, and it's been brilliant. It's been a very loving and lovely experience to be creative again. No one's lost their mojo anyway.
Mark, thanks so much for coming on the channel. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to one of the guys I used to see on TV and aspire to be like when I was a teenager.
Yeah, of course, James. Yes, it's been lovely to meet you.
And I'll hopefully see you out at a live show sometime soon.
You better.
And as we touched upon briefly in that conversation, there is now, at last, an official BLUETONES YouTube channel. It's called BLUETONES Official. The link is in the description, and it's only been going for a matter of weeks at the moment. So if you would like to get subscribed to the latest content from the band and also the fully remastered original music videos, click the link in the description and go subscribe to the BLUETONES Official. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.